December 14th, 2010, 3:47 in the morning. Las Vegas Boulevard. You're watching a Suzuki motorcycle slow to a stop outside the most recognizable casino on Earth. The rider doesn't rush, doesn't hesitate. He kills the engine, swings one leg off the bike, and stands there for a moment. Black leather jacket, black helmet, tinted visor pulled all the way down. You cannot see his face, not even a shadow of it. He doesn't go around back, doesn't find a side entrance, doesn't crouch behind a column or wait for a blind spot. He walks straight through the front doors of the Bellagio, like he paid for the place. 42 security cameras rotate toward him, every angle, every step, every breath captured in high definition by a surveillance system that has never once blinked. In exactly 4 minutes and 38 seconds, he will walk back out those same front doors, and he will be carrying $1.5 million. His name is Anthony Carleo. He is 29 years old. His father is Judge George Assad, one of the most respected figures in Las Vegas Municipal Court, a man whose entire life is built on order, law, and consequence. And what Anthony is about to do will destroy all three. But here's the thing nobody tells you when they mention this story. The robbery? That's not even the most insane part. Because Anthony Carleo didn't just steal $1.5 million from the Bellagio. He stole chips that were impossible to spend, then bragged about it online to strangers, and handed the FBI everything they needed to find him before he even realized he was already caught. This is the story of a man who pulled off a nearly perfect heist, and then couldn't survive his own ego. It started at a poker table inside the very casino he was about to rob. Anthony Carleo sat there on a Tuesday night, watching his last stack of chips disappear into the center of the table. Not a bad beat, not bad luck, just the slow, ugly math of a man who had been losing for months and run out of ways to hide it. The trust fund was gone. The credit lines were maxed. The $80,000 debt hanging over him wasn't the kind you negotiate. It was the kind that found you. He pushed back from the table, hands steadying themselves on the felt, and looked around the room like he was seeing it for the first time. That's when he noticed something that changed everything. Right there on the craps tables, sitting in open racks barely guarded, were stacks of $25,000 cranberry chips. Nobody was standing over them with a rifle, no vault door, no armored glass, just chips sitting in the open in a room full of noise and distraction. Anthony studied the floor. The security cameras were everywhere, yes. The guards were stationed at every corner, yes. But their entire system was built to catch one kind of criminal, the slow kind, the cheater who lingers, the card counter who blends in. Nobody had designed this fortress to stop a man who simply refused to stop moving. He went home that night and started planning. He brought a Suzuki motorcycle with cash, no paper trail. Then he went back to the Bellagio, not to gamble, but to count. 23 steps from the craps table to the front exit. He walked it 4 times, memorized the camera positions, timed the guard rotations. When he was done, he knew that floor better than most of the employees who worked it. On December 14th, 2010, at 3:47 in the morning, he put the helmet on and didn't look back. He walked in, pulled the gun, and the room froze. Nobody screamed, nobody ran. They just went completely still, the way people do when their brain hasn't caught up to what their eyes are seeing. Anthony swept the cranberry chips off the table and into his bag. 42 cameras recorded every second of it. He didn't care. He was already moving. 4 minutes and 38 seconds later, the motorcycle was gone. But the morning after is where the story changes. Anthony sat in his apartment and spread the chips across the table. $1.5 million right there in front of him. Except it wasn't. Every single chip was serial numbered, flagged, tracked. The Bellagio had already pulled them from circulation the moment he walked out the door. He wasn't holding a fortune, he was holding evidence. He spent the next 6 weeks trying to sell them. The black market offers came back embarrassing, 20 cents on the dollar, sometimes less. Nobody wanted chips that hot. Nobody with real money anyway. And so Anthony Carleo, the man who had pulled off the most brazen casino robbery in Nevada history, sat alone in his apartment, surrounded by $1.5 million he couldn't touch. That's when the ego took over. He found a poker forum called 2+2 and created an account under the name Biker Bandit. At first, he was vague, dropping hints, fishing for reactions. Then he got comfortable. He started describing the heist, the timing, the chips, the motorcycle. He wanted what the money was supposed to buy him: respect, status, the feeling that someone somewhere knew what he'd done and was impressed by it. The forum gave him that. For a few weeks, he was a legend on a message board. Special Agent John Spencer was reading every word. The FBI had been monitoring the thread since almost the beginning. It didn't take long. One subpoena to the forum's hosting company, one IP address, one name: Anthony Carleo. Apartment registered in Las Vegas, son of Judge George Assad. They had him mapped before Christmas. They weren't rushing. They were building the case clean, preparing to pick him up at home, quietly, without incident. Anthony didn't know any of that when he walked back into the Bellagio on January 28, 2011 at 2:15 in the morning. He'd convinced himself 6 weeks was long enough, that security had moved on, that 5 chips, just 5, worth $125,000 was a small enough ask that nobody would flinch. He wasn't wearing the leather jacket this time, no helmet, just a hoodie and jeans, a man trying to look like nobody. He walked up to the cashier cage and slid the chips across the counter like it was the most natural thing in the world. The cashier looked down, looked up, picked up the phone. The silence lasted about 4 seconds, then it lasted forever. Within 90 seconds, security had him surrounded. The FBI agents who walked through that door didn't need to introduce themselves. They already knew his apartment layout, his forum posts, his IP address, his father's courtroom number. They had him mapped before Christmas. They had saved them the trip. The moment Anthony saw his father, Judge George Assad, on the other side of the glass, whatever was left of the story collapsed. The man who had built his life enforcing consequences now had to sit across from his son and absorb the weight of all of them. There are no words recorded from that visit. None were needed. The court sentenced Anthony Carleo to 9 years in prison. The cranberry chips were collected, melted down, and replaced. The Bellagio moved on in a matter of weeks. Anthony lost his entire 30s for plastic that was worthless the moment he touched it.